I remember it was a beautiful day. It was like summer.
I woke up and I proceeded on my way to school as normal. Once I got there, I was in my first period class. And I noticed there wasn't a lot of people that wasn't, attending to their class. And I was curious, but everybody just kept learning.
I had been in shul in the morning and I was up to Baraku when I answered a Hatzola ambulance call. From the call, I took my sons to yeshiva and went straight into the city. On my way to the city, I reminded myself to say, Shema.
My phone started ringing early that morning, but it was election day in that hole. I'd been getting lots and lots of calls from the polls, the political polls, and I was tired of picking up the phone. So I put my machine on and I said, forget it, let the machine pick it up.
See, what had happened was I was running late for school. I was at the bottom of the boat, the Staten Island ferry. You can see Brooklyn to your right and Jersey to your left, and all the skyline in front of you.
The boat proceeded to dock, and everyone proceeded to go to work as normal, because it didn't look like there was anything that was going to stop anybody from working, Because we live in New York, so we're used to, you know.
On the morning of September 11th, I left for work. Actually, I had a conversation with my brother in the morning. We were trying to schedule lunch because my brother was building a set at the World Trade Center for MTV. We tried to calculate a time. I told him, I'll call him later. Anyway, I'm on my way to work.
That morning, before he left to go to work, he did his normal routine. Went over and kissed my daughter on the cheek, on the lips, and said, I love you. She opened her eyes and saw that he was dressed handsomely like he always is in the morning. And he went off to work. And then she heard the garage door open again. He had come back and stood at the foot of the steps. And he called out her name, Gloria. And she said, yes, Steve. And he said, Gloria, I just want you to know that I really love you. And she said, I love you too, Steve. And he said, no, Gloria, I really love you. And he went to work.
I got to work that day around 7:45. I drank my coffee, and then Lisa came over to my cubicle. We sat down. I helped her with our assignment. We finished the assignment. She went back to her desk. I started reviewing my work for the day. I don't remember if my husband called me that morning.
I was the senior property manager of the Port Authority in New York and New Jersey. At the World Trade Center, my responsibility was Tower 1. September 11th, we were doing what we usually do on Tuesdays. We're having a meeting with our contractors to go over cleaning and maintenance. The meeting ended about 8:45, and we were sitting around talking. And the next thing you know,
I was in the restroom. I can't believe I'm telling you this. See, every morning I have a routine. I get a cup of coffee, a newspaper, and then I hit the bathroom. So I was in the bathroom when, boom!
Shit! Something hit the building.
I heard a boom sound.
The lights flickered.
What's going on?
All you heard was boom, 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 bang!
The building swayed.
What's happening? Oh my God!
We had no idea.
I felt the building shake. The walls cracked.
Oh my gosh!
We were all in shock.
I heard this boom sound, and the lights flickered. I looked at my watch, and I think it said maybe 8:45. I jumped up and said, "Well, what was that?"
we heard a loud roar, and then something hit the building, actually banged into it, pushed it north to south, twisted the building around, and then swung it back. Now, the building usually sways a couple of feet north, south, east, west, depending on the wind. But this was not just a bend. This was a bend and a twist and then a whip back.
I looked out the window, and I saw metal pieces and fireballs coming towards my window. I was scared. I thought the windows were gonna explode. And Danielle came around the cubicle and yelled, "Fire!" So I kept saying, "Well, go, go."
As part of the building management team, our responsibility would go down to the lobby, to the fire command, to find out what's going on. So we got our vests, radio, flashlight, hard hat, and whatnot. And we started going down stairway 3 from the 21st floor. While we're in the stairwell, I get a beep from my wife to call her and let her know I was okay. I said it was something because we're 5 minutes into this and my wife is beeping me.
We were going down the stairs. I felt like I passed out maybe 10 times. It seemed like the stairs were just never ending. The people were calm and organized, and someone even handed me a bottle of water, actually. I was thinking, I couldn't die now. My oldest son's birthday was on Saturday, and I had to be there. And my younger one, well, I was on bed rest for 9 months to have him, and I was not going to give up now.
We were working our way down the stairs. It was very orderly. The only delay was when you had to stop and move to the right to let the firemen come up. I had a radio going, and we got wind that a plane had hit. There was a lot of yelling and commotion, and people started to ask, hey, what's going on? What's happening? Rather than create panic, we shut the radios down. We were still trying to find out exactly what had taken place. You knew it was a plane, and you knew it had hit the building. That's all we knew. What size was the plane? What floors did it hit? How much damage? All of this was unknown.
I remember thinking it must have been some kind of amateur pilot error. You know, just some dumb shit flying his crop duster too low, smashing into the tower like a bird into a patio window, much to the amusement of those inside. But hey, really, I did not think it was anything serious.
So anyways, the second period started. We were on our way and we sat down, and the guy that worked for the bus, the transit authority, his job was down there. And he got a call while he was in class from one of his coworkers, and they told him, don't come to work because the World Trade Center just got bombed. And we were like, just got bombed? Word? So then we were sitting there like, oh man, that's crazy. But my teacher, she was like, oh man, that's sad, man. And she was like, well, anyways, let's get back to the lesson. And she kept teaching. Yo, like, we wanted to get out there and see what's wrong with our family. And she just kept teaching with the lesson.
I was bugging out. I was like, what the hell? A fire? It looked like a fire. There were flames coming out. I called my brother right away, and he was still at home. I was like, huh? He was like, well, yeah, I'm watching it on the news. And I was like, I don't know what happened. There's some kind of fire. And he was like, no, a plane crashed. A plane crashed? Still, nothing crossed through my mind. He says, he's running late. I gotta go to work. I said, okay, we'll meet up at 1 o'clock. And that was it. I hung up. I stayed looking up for like 10 minutes because you know us Hispanic people, we're nosy. So we just like to stand there and be like, oh, what's going on in the middle of everything? And everyone's asking, oh, what happened? And I'm like, I don't know. There was a freak accident. Oh my God. Oh my God. You know?
My son-in-law was on the 105th floor. He worked for Cantor Fitzgerald. We heard from him after the first plane had hit Tower 1. He did not know that a plane hit. He thought a bomb had gone off. He called my daughter to tell her that they'd been bombed and the room was filling with smoke. He asked my daughter to pray. And that was the last time she spoke to him.
I took the number 7 train into the city. I usually stand by the door to be away, not bothering anyone if there's no seat. I was looking out the window and I see a gray, heavy smoke. And I said to myself, no wonder they complain now that they're polluting the air. It's really bad.
I saw the massive hole in the building. It was right below his floor. I thought to myself, well, How is he going to get down? Because I felt that he was still alive and he was going to get out. But realizing that the plane had gone through the whole building, I watched the black smoke, so black, on top of the building. I knew he couldn't go to the roof. How could he go to the roof? You could not see the roof.
There were a good 400 people that day at the bottom of the boat. I swear to you, nobody knows what made us turn to our left. Nobody knows, but it was like a military type of convention, because at the same time, 400 heads turned to the left. There was not a sound, not even a whisper. We didn't see anything out of the corner of our eye. 400 heads turned to the left, and we saw a plane that was flying so close and going too damn fast. And then it was like the plane got lower and lower and lower as it got closer to the building. And we were all like, oh my goodness, this plane is going into a building. It looked like the plane went around the building and missed. Then the plane disappeared, and you saw this tiny, itty-bitty yellow ball. And 400 people at the same time screamed, oh shit.
I notice everyone's looking up in one direction. So I stop and look up. Literally, if you're standing outside, you have to look up like that, like this. So I'm standing there looking at my time. It's 10 after 9. I'm late, so I start walking down the block. Before I get to the corner, I see people are walking really fast up the block. And I see someone go like that. So of course I turn around. And then I see the second plane hit. And that's when you felt the ground tremble.
Shortly after the second plane hit, the building swayed, the walls cracked, stairs just crumpled. Camille came, she started screaming and crying. I knew I had to compose myself so that I could help her. I told her that we had to get out because, well, our kids were waiting for us. When we got to the bottom, I was so happy. Until I realized they were making us walk through the lobby and go up the escalator. I really questioned these people's intelligence. Why couldn't we go out the first exit we saw? I just wanted to keep running until I saw Queens.
We all fell down. At that point, I was panicking. I was like, what the fuck is going on? We felt the heat. I lost hearing in my right ear. It was PAH! Like if a cherry bomb went off right next to you. I didn't realize it was a second plane. You saw the flames and the ball of fire just coming out everywhere. I thought it was an explosion from the first impact because the gas tanks or whatever. I run to my building and the guards are like, nope, you can't come in here and use the elevator. We're shutting everything down.
There was a big explosion. I was still talking to myself. Everyone got up and came to my side. Everyone got their cell phone and started calling and talking. We heard the conductor say, should we tell anything to the people? And a passenger said, you just did, you idiot.
So my phone rings, and it's my friend Henry telling me the second plane hit. What the hell are you still doing there? It's a terrorist attack. I started crying, and I'm on the phone, and my heart starts racing. My heart is coming out of my body. I'm expecting terrorists to come out everywhere. Henry is still telling me, what are you still doing there? And I'm like, where am I gonna go?
There they were. They looked like two smoking cigarettes. Looked like, they were standing up on end, sitting on their filters, just smoking. And I just started screaming. I turned the TV on and there was nothing. Absolutely nothing.
There was no traffic. You come out of the tunnel and you look up and you see this little bit of smoke, like this little bit of brown, black smoke, and a lot of glitter. What was this glitter? And what seemed like confetti? Is this like a fireworks display? Did something happen? Is it a fire? Maybe. I mean, it looked like it was a fire. Maybe that glitter is glass. Maybe that confetti is paper from the inside of an office building, you know? Should I stop? I mean, this is all like seconds. I see all these fire trucks and all these cops, and I said, well, you know, I mean, I am a cop, aren't I? I'm not on duty, but that doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, should I help rescue? At this point, it doesn't look like that big of a deal. Looks like it's kind of under control. I don't know if I can really help, but I decide that split second, almost in the blink of an eye, I make a left. I turn on the radio, NPR, WINS Wins News, and I hear this plane, and I said, hey, how could you not see the World Trade Center? Can't be. No.
We were dispatched to the Twin Towers for a fire. I rode in the ambulance to Manhattan, and as we got out into tunnel onto West Street, I saw body parts all over the street. I saw part of an airplane. It looked like an engine. We were told to park the ambulance right near the towers. Then there was a report that a third plane might be coming into the building. So we got back on the ambulance and drove a little further away. We were waiting for directions from the command center, watching the towers burn.
I get to John Jay. I get there on time. Amazing. By the time I got to the classroom, they already knew. And they were pale. It was really bad. The lesson for the day, how ironic, was, what is a crisis? Then somebody comes in and says, they just hit the Pentagon. And I say, okay, time out. We cannot continue. We cannot continue. We're at war. It's the end of the world. I have to go do something, like police related now.
Right then, my mind went to my father because he worked on the 27th floor. I was like, he got out when they bombed it in 1993, so he's all right. But then I heard the second tower was hit. I was like, oh shit, that's the tower my dad was in. For some reason, I said in my head, good for him. That's what he gets. Because a couple of days before that, early that morning, he kept on getting on my case, yelling at me, bothering the hell out of me. Yeah, well, that's my father, but that really pissed me off. But then I caught myself and I said, that's still my dad and I love him. And I couldn't imagine if I'd never seen him again. You only get one father. I can't just go to Dad's or Us and pick up another one. So I got all teary-eyed because I started thinking the worst. About 20 minutes later, my mom called and told me my dad was okay. Now that I knew he was safe, I went back to being mad at him.
I was with my mother and we never traveled to work together, but I praise God that he had us together that day. We was trying to call my dad because he's even closer to the World Trade Center tower than we were. Let's just say that the tower was A. My mom and I were like, I don't know, D and C. And my father was B. You understand? He was really like in the nucleus of what was going on. So he's having to like calm us down. And I'm on the phone hollering, get off the phone. This is crazy. You can't see what's going on out here. It's crazy stuff going on outside. You need to come outside now. You need to get out of that building. We were on the phone with him maybe 2 minutes before the phone lines went completely dead.
The phones were having problems.
Then the phones cut off.
The phones went completely dead.
I can't use my cell
We
phone.
couldn't use our cell phones.
Call your mother.
My cell phone's not
You
working.
need to contact your mother.
No one could use their cell phone.
Let me go stand in line for a
I
payphone.
finally get to the phone to have my quarter spit back out at me.
I couldn't get through.
My mom and I had cell phones, but we couldn't use them anymore. It was like you were looking at a paperweight at that point. All the payphones were down. Everyone was just walking in around the streets because no one knew where to go. Where do you walk to? Because there was this uncertainty of what was going to be the next building to be hit. Looking up at one of the towers, I saw people hanging out of the building. I saw people jumping from the building like they were just... I guess they figured this is how I'm going to go out. I'd rather choose how I'm going to... They were doing like somersaults out of the building. Some were hanging like chains out of the building.
We started to see people jumping out of the windows of the towers below the fire floors. I guess their choice was flying in the building or jumping to their deaths. A sight I don't think I'll ever forget.
And that's when it started. Like, this is very serious stuff going on here. I guess you always heard in like third world nations, in like countries abroad, being in college, you know about things like that, but they never really materialize until it's magnified in front of you. And I'm telling you, that magnifying glass was humongous that day.
As we were waiting for instructions, we heard a loud rumble. I looked up and saw the tower starting to come down on itself.
Then we hear like a roar. And I'm holding on to my friend Anna and I'm like, you heard that shit, right? You fucking heard that shit. And then the floor shakes. And I'm like, let's get the hell out of here. So we ran, and when we finally looked back, that's when the first tower fell.
I'm on the phone on the balcony. I'm taking pictures. The first one starts to fall, and then tower 2 started coming down. And I had the phone in one hand and the camera in the other, and I am screaming, "Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! It is falling!" What do you mean it's falling? It's falling! Oh my God! It's falling! It's falling! It's like, and I'm clicking, and then one of my neighbor's mothers calls, and she's asking about, she's a senior citizen, whether or not she should go to the beauty salon. And I said, no, I don't think so, because people tend to get crazy in these kinds of situations. I think you ought to consider staying home, canceling that appointment.
I, along with everyone else, ran for our lives. About half a block down, there was this tremendous cloud of smoke, dust, and debris that caught up with us. At that point, it became so dark you couldn't even see an inch in front of you.
We turned around and we started walking fast. It didn't make any sense to run because you're not going to outrun that. All you're going to do is breathe in whatever it is. So we had handkerchiefs over our face trying to breathe, and we walked through this. It was like a snowstorm.
I wasn't able to breathe. I can only compare it to putting a vacuum cleaner bag full of dust over your head and trying to see and breathe with it on. My eyes were burning. As I was running, someone tripped. I stopped to help him get up. I think he would have been stampeded on by all the masses of people running. It was so quiet. Not a sound. Some big guy tripped on me while I was sitting, trying to calm down. He asked if I'm a person, and I told him to hold on to me. And together, we will survive.
There was this chaos going on in the streets. People were running around like crying and screaming, and I just didn't feel safe staying on the streets anymore. My building started evacuating people, and there was no place you could run to for shelter. So we decided to go into this bar. And I was like, that's hilarious. Me and my mom going into this bar at 9:30 in the morning. But everything had only been going on maybe an hour. And it felt like maybe 10 days had passed. Then they made an announcement that the Pentagon was hit. And we were both like, okay, this is something very serious. And both of us started praying in the bar. We started praying right in the bar.
It's already 1 o'clock and I still hadn't called home, so I called my wife. She's screaming and yelling, and my son was going completely bananas because they knew that we would stay in the building like we did when they bombed it in '93.
By the time we got to 34th Street, both towers fell. You can see the Twin Towers from 34th and 6th Avenue, and they were just gone. Paranoia in full kicked in, and I'm a drama queen as it is, so you can imagine. We walk up to 42nd Street, and there are thousands of people looking up at the screen, and I'm going, it's a terrorist attack. What makes you think they're not going to attack Times Square?
The trains were not running.
The whole city was shut down.
We didn't know what to do.
We had to walk.
I looked back, and it seemed as if the building was trying to swallow me.
This guy from work saw me crying, and he was shaking me and saying, be strong. You have to be strong.
We heard planes and helicopters, and no one knew whether or not we were going to be attacked again.
People started crying hysterically, running, and panicking.
Some damn reporters stopped people to get interviews from them.
Those strong enough to be scared but not panic were trying to keep the others calm.
Once we got calm, we just held hands.
I had to walk from 109th all the way to Southern Boulevard, you know.
They ain't gonna walk under the train tunnel.
There were just droves and droves of people on the bridge. They were like zombies.
I had on spanking ass new shoes.
I had my boots on and my feet were freaking killing me.
My shoes look like I've been wearing them for 12 years.
My feet were blistered and bleeding, but I didn't care. I just kept it moving.
We held hands and continued to get home safe.
We walked over the bridge.
I noticed there are people running into Manhattan as I'm getting out.
So we get across and everyone was going their separate ways.
I got there and just hugged my mother and baby to death.
Meanwhile, we're thinking over 40,000 people were dead. They thought the hospitals were going to be inundated with injuries. When those injuries never came in, they knew the bodies would be next, maybe 20,000 or 30,000 people. They got the refrigerated trailers. No plan, no clear roles, no hierarchy, no one in charge, although everyone did look to the police. But everyone did get involved. All these agencies rushed in to get the job done.
Steve's father was going to work. He was supposed to be in the tower at the time, but because of a misunderstanding, he went in late. And he decided to take the bus. And the bus was stopped on the Gowanus Expressway, and he watched, which I can't even imagine. He watched the buildings crumble with his son in there. Feelings come afterwards. At the time, you do what you have to do. You hope, you pray for a miracle that maybe your loved one were coming through your door. We gathered at my daughter's house, a whole family. His mother, his sister, my other daughter, my son, cousins, friends. They stood outside the house, inside the house, glued to the TV, looking at the faces of people who were running and hoping that we could get a glimpse of Steve's face. But that wasn't to be.
When I first heard the news, I thought there was a possibility that it was a terrorist attack. And when I saw the second plane hit the building, I knew that terrorism was involved, and I knew that Osama bin Laden was involved. I was very angry at bin Laden because he hurt lots of innocent people for his interpretation of the Muslim religion. He degraded the Muslim religion, and he misrepresented Arabs. Now, I am Muslim,
and our religion is nothing like Bin Laden portrays it to be.
I was worried about how crazy people get when they get frightened. I was more afraid of what American citizens may do, and I wasn't too far off. They pulled people out of cars and beat them. And I ran into a gentleman who had witnessed some men pull a Middle Eastern man out of his car and beat him to a pulp.
Another thing that happened after September 11th, I was at CompUSA buying a CD, and there was a guy in line next to me who was buying a CD of a train simulator, which I thought was kind of strange. Here's this grown man buying this train simulator, and he looked like he was foreign. Could have been possibly from the Mideast. What's to stop terrorists from hijacking freight trains or regular trains and causing havoc, running them into something or whatever? So what ended up happening was me calling the FBI and telling them I was at CompUSA, and there was a suspicious looking character who bought a train simulator.
The stillness in the air was very different. The pigeons wouldn't even fly high. It was very bizarre. The birds, no birds for a week. For a week, they wouldn't fly up there.
On the first day, no one thought their loved ones were dead. Everyone thought their loved ones were, hit by a brick. That first night, people were angry, I'm going to go in there. Let me go in there. I'm going to help my mother-in-law find my brother, Isn't there a hospitalist? Everybody wanted to see the hospitalist.
My mom called and told me my dad's company went into the building to help. And I didn't think twice about it. I thought my dad was helping people out of the buildings. I thought he would be okay. Later, my mom was crying and very nervous, so I drove home and we watched the news together. I saw all those people hurt or dead. I felt bad for them and their family. It was 5 o'clock and we still haven't heard anything. I was being very naive, thinking my dad was busy and as soon as he could, he will call.
The next day, there were thousands of people in line, wrapped all the way around the block, all the way up the FDR Drive, looking for their loved ones. They were coming in, checking the list, looking for updates. There were no updates. People in hospitals were treated and released for cuts and bruises.
That night, we received a call. He said, my father is dead. I didn't want to believe it, maybe he's just too busy helping, or he is, he's just hurt, but they said some of his company ran into the building and it collapsed before they could get out. I never felt so angry in my life. They had no rights taking my dad.
Then, of course, came the smell. Sometimes I'd have to just shut the whole place down because it would make your eyes tear. I took supplies to Chelsea Piers that week, and my skin was burning, my eyes were burning. I came home and I washed everything because I didn't know what I'd been walking through, and it burned. It literally burned your skin.
If your loved ones weren't on the list, I'm talking about 1 week later, and the pictures, putting the pictures up on the walls, and hairbrushes and toothbrushes and dental records, it was a sea of humanity, just looking for a gleam of hope. The pre-mourning stage, it's not shock, it's not depression, it's not grief yet. It's like a dream that is reality. You don't want to know it, but you know it. They were waiting for a rescue.
My mother was like, yeah, because she's a cop. And she was like, yeah, she got to go down there and this and that. She said she's seen dead bodies and stuff. It was sad. She said she shook the senator's hand She shook the senator's, no, she shook the president's hand. Bush, because Bush was down there. Giuliani was down there too, but she ain't care about him. It was crazy. Peace to the gods, baby.
People didn't want to come for the death certificate. If they got a death certificate, they were saying, I don't want to look for him anymore. They didn't care that they couldn't start any insurance process. They didn't care about the money. They just did not want to give up on their person.
People sent food over because we wound up staying there for a whole week because we never gave up hope. My daughter wanted to speak to him again.
I'll tell you the story of one particular family because it's the one that really shook me and still stays with me. There was a confirmation. So I brought the family into the comfort area. The whole family is there. The mother, the father, the fiance. This 24-year-old boy had died. He was there on a breakfast. He doesn't even work there. I give the notification to the mother and father, and they lose it. I tell them that I'm going to find out what the next step is, because the son's body was recovered and identified. I'm a police officer. I'm a lieutenant. And they're looking at me like I'm in charge of this whole thing. I'm in charge of the armory for all they know. I'm going to get to the bottom and sort out the bureaucracy. So I go to the ME, the medical examiner's office that was set up at the armory, and they tell me they're not going to be able to view the body. We're going to ask them to view a picture instead. So I go back and I have to brace myself and tell them that they're not going to be able to see him. Because that's what they want. They want to see him. The mother wants to touch his hair. Now I have to go back and tell them that's not going to be reality. You have to couch it in language that is sensitive and gentle. So I tell them, and I get them to a place where they're going to be okay just seeing the picture. 4 hours we make them wait for a picture. There was a bomb scare. They had to evacuate the morgue. They had to find the picture to get the picture. Big mishugas. Finally, the pictures are here. I get to the ME. Yes, the picture is here, but we can't let them see it. I go, what? We can't let them see it? What do you mean we can't let them see it? They've been waiting for 4 hours. They're not going to let them see it because it's that bad. And then they show me the 50 pictures that they have so I can get an idea of what they're talking about. And I look at these pictures and I can't even believe what I see. Now, I've seen some stuff in my life, in my career, whatnot, and I'm not a squeamish person. I'm not. But I did not believe this. They were charred. They just didn't look like people. It was very, very bizarre. So now I have to go back and tell them that they can't even see the picture. And to make matters worse, that the only way they're going to release his body was if they had dental records. To make a long story short, I take them to the dentist, get the dental records, take them back to the ME, convince the ME that they could make the ID from the records because his head was crushed beyond recognition. They finally released the body. 10 hours, the ordeal for this family. 10 hours. But they were so... The father at the end, I can still see him hugging me, thanking me. Thanking me for what? Getting his son's body released? You think about it. I didn't do shit for you, but that was it. It was a bond, and I was ace with the bureaucracy. I cut through the crap for him and his family. They invited me to the funeral. I went, which I didn't want to do, but I did. I let that funeral be the funeral for all the people that I, helped.
We lost 16 of our people. That was strictly World Trade. The total for the Port Authority, including the cops, was 75. From what I understand, 13 of the 16 lost their lives, not because they were just in the building, but because they were part of the command operations room and they stood there. They responded by going to their command centers, of the mall, not knowing that a second plane would hit. They were doing what they were supposed to be doing in an emergency. They didn't lose their lives because they were trying to get out of the building. They lost their lives because they were trying to get other people out. Every funeral I've gone to, and I've gone to a lot of them, there's no body there. There's a coffin, that's just symbolic, and there's pictures of the person at a party having a good time at their wedding and whatnot. And all the people you know from the building are there and they're saying hi. It's like a cocktail party, but it's not. To me, it's like when the day ended, everybody went home. Everybody went their separate ways. To me, they're not gone yet. I don't miss them because I haven't gone to that wide open coffin and there's a person lying there, you know? At the memorial at Madison Square Garden, I broke down. I was doing pretty good. I was able to hold it. Then they started calling out everybody's name who was lost. And then the last person, a woman yells out, "Get my baby out." And then I just fell apart. And I had it.
You have to remember, I've been looking at these buildings all my adult life in New York City. When I first moved into this building, my furniture didn't come and I had a pallet on the floor and that was it. I had nothing. All I had was the nightlight of New York, the light in the hallway, and those two buildings. I went to bed my first night in New York and they were there. I called them the twin sisters. They were sisters and they were like my first neighbors. Yep. They were the first people I met in this building. I went to bed my first night looking at them and I woke up my first morning looking at them. And I looked at them every day all my life in New York. You know, for the first week, I could still see them in my mind's eye. I'd look downtown and they were still there. I mean, I know they weren't there, but I could still see the shape, you know, like ghost silhouettes of them. And I saw them for about a week.
When I prayed this morning, it had a whole different meaning. My prayers took longer, actually, a lot longer than usual. I wasn't in a rush to leave shul. Life is so short and precious. Unfortunately, it sometimes takes a situation like this to wake us up. I express this with thanks to be able to talk about it and not to be talked about.
Nothing is back to normal. It's only been a few months. I think that we are a society, New York specifically, that has to bounce back right away. Get back to normal. Suck it up. A week later, the stock market was open. Go to the restaurants, you know? Bizarre. It's like a dysfunctional family. It's like you have an alcoholic in the family. Nobody wants to address it. It's this big elephant in the middle of the room. Nobody wants to see it. You don't deal with what happened.
Should they build another World Trade Center? Sure, do whatever you want to do. There's plenty of space for them to build it. They can build whatever they want. Build another World Trade Center, I don't care. It's fine with me. People will go about as high as the 5th floor. That's about as far as I'd go. Truthfully, there should be nothing built. My feeling is that they should just fill it in and make the biggest memorial you ever saw. Leave it alone. That's sacred ground. You're not going to find any people there. They're ashes, they're dust. It's all gone. God only knows where they are.
The beautiful side of the story is that 25,000 people's lives were saved. I had the best group of officers you could ever imagine. The best and the worst work of our lives. I have never done anything on this job that was as meaningful as that. And then I knew why I became a cop.
I don't miss the buildings. I've said that to people. They think I'm crazy. But what I do miss when I see it on TV is when they show you the buildings on the insides. People going in and out in the elevators and the marble and the chandeliers in the mall area. So it's not the building. There's no animation to it, because the inside was the life of it. It's what made it breathe and run, and the people that were there. That's what bothers me.
It's 6 months past the date, and people will think that things will get easier. But I can tell you this, it gets harder. Just thinking about it as I go to work each morning, I cross over the Gowanus and I look toward the skyline of Manhattan, and I don't see those towers anymore. We have such a hole in our hearts. There's a big hole in my family because he's missed at every occasion. But I'm going to tell a little story. So one night, my daughter bounced into my room about 3 a.m. And she said, "Ma, I met the man I'm going to marry." And I said, "Okay." And then she went on and on about how wonderful he was, his character, everything about him. I said, "Okay, what does he look like?" And she went, "I don't remember." And she said it was kind of dark in the place. So I said, "Isn't there anything you can remember?" She scratched her head, and then she said, "Oh yeah, he's 6'10". So I measured a door jamb, which is about 7 feet, and I realized he's maybe 2 inches shorter. I made my daughter stand in the doorway. My daughter is 5'3". On their first date, he was coming to pick her up, and we were all waiting for him. Everybody's waiting, 6'10". So the 280ZX pulls up in front of my house, and let me tell you, he got out of the car and kept getting out and getting out and getting out. I never saw anyone so big in my life. And I'm going, what am I, crazy? I'm going to let my daughter go out this guy? But he came into the house, and he was the most perfect gentleman. There was this sense about him that was really wonderful. But I still went out and got his license plate number. And they got married. And he became my son. And I will never, never forget him.
Until now, I had not told my story to anyone except my intimate group of people. I mean, what are you going to tell me? What are you going to do? You going to analyze it? What are you going to tell me that I don't already know? But this feels good. It's really important to tell the story over and over. And it feels good to have someone like you who's validating, not judging, not analyzing, to just listen. And it's important to tell the story. When we stop telling the story, we hide it. The pain becomes invisible, and the lessons aren't learned. And a recovery doesn't happen. These are the stories. They are alive. We have to keep on telling the story.